The PlayStation 4's library of amazing RPGs has been rapidly growing, and 2017 was symbolic of that. In this video, we'll be taking a look at the top 15 amazing PS4 RPGs of 2017 that you must own. Let's get right into this. Number 15, Battle Chasers Nightwar. Battle Chasers Nightwar is an RPG inspired by the classic console greats, featuring deep dungeon diving, turn-based combat presented in a classic JRPG format, and a rich story driven by exploration of the world. Artistically, the game looks great, and this is one of the RPGs that has gone really under the radar, so definitely check it out if you're a fan of the genre. Number 14, Am Setsuna. Am Setsuna was the first game by Tokyo RPG Factory, a studio created by Square Enix to create great old-school style JRPGs. The game is set in a land gripped by perpetual winter. It follows a mercenary and his charge, a maiden named Setsuna who must offer herself as a sacrifice at a sacred shrine to appease hostile demons. It's a very sad and emotional game, and the gameplay is deliberately designed to invoke RPGs of the 90s, using an active time battle system based on those present in the early Final Fantasy games as well as Chrono Trigger. Am Setsuna isn't perfect, but it does set a good pace of what Tokyo RPG Factory can do in the future.
I choose to remember these things. Small things, hopeful things. For now, a long journey lies ahead. I must give my life so that others may remember.
Number 13, Ys Origin. Ys Origin is a prequel to the 8 previous installments of Ys, and it's one of those JRPG series that hasn't really gotten the recognition it deserves. They aren't excellent games, but they are very consistent and very good. It takes place 700 years before the events of Ys 1, and it tells much of the backstory of the series, so playing the other games while it'll help isn't completely necessary. Ys is a very good JRPG franchise, and Ys Origin is a game you should check out, and we'll be mentioning more of Ys a little bit later on in this video. Number 12, Pyre. Pyre is an action RPG developed by Supergiant Games, and if you don't know who those guys are the guys that worked on Bastion and Transistor. And given the standard that Supergiant Games has set with Bastion and Transistor, it's very hard to consistently live up to it, but Pyre was another amazing game. From the art, to the music, to the storytelling, the gameplay, it's a really well-made game, and if you are a fan of Supergiant Games' other works, Pyre is gonna be right up your alley, and if you haven't played Bastion or Transistor, well then you're doing yourself a major disservice. Play those two and then play Pyre as well. They're not tied together in any way, but they're all amazing games, and Pyre is definitely another one.
Face your foes. Come at us. Gain enlightenment. Who goes free? Who remains? You decide.
Number 11, Tales of Berseria. Tales of is another series just like Ys that's very consistent. With Tales, once again, the games are very good, but they never really reach that excellent tier. A few of the games have, but most of the time they're just very good games and very standard. Tales of Berseria, I can easily say, is an excellent game. While the gameplay and world exploration are very similar, what Tales of Berseria excels at is character development and storytelling. It is without a doubt some of the best the series has ever seen. The main character is very engaging, and the rest of the cast is very charming as well. The storytelling is great, and while the gameplay is your standard Tales fare, that has worked for the last several years, so no need to change something that isn't broken. Visually, it's your standard Tales fare. It's not technically a masterclass or anything like that, but it definitely is serviceable. If you're a fan of Tales of, you must play Tales of Berseria. It's one of the best in series history, and if you've yet to give the franchise a shot, Tales of Berseria is a great entry point. Number 10, Pillars of Eternity Complete Edition. Pillars of Eternity was a game that gained a lot of fame on PC. It was developed by Obsidian. Those guys are very talented. And earlier this year, Pillars of Eternity finally hit the PlayStation 4 in the form of the Complete Edition, which also includes the two-part expansion, The White March. Pillars of Eternity is a great old-school RPG with awesome world building and an enormous amount of content for your money. This is a game that's going to keep you busy for a very long time, and when you throw in the expansion as well, expect to be playing Pillars of Eternity for north of 100 hours if you really want to do everything. It also makes a very smooth transition over to the PlayStation 4 and the DualShock 4, so definitely give Pillars of Eternity a look.
It's fine. Last time the god headed our way, he killed thousands. After we stopped him, a whole generation came out wrong. This is our punishment. It's no way to teach a lesson. If it's something else, maybe we can stop it too.
Number 9, South Park The Fractured But Whole. Last generation when South Park The Stick of Truth was released, I don't think many gamers were expecting the game to be as good as it was. On paper, a South Park game with traditional RPG mechanics, it sounds interesting, but not something that you could say is excellent. Well, South Park The Stick of Truth was just that, and South Park The Fractured But Whole builds upon that with a new superhero theme. You've got 10 different superhero classes, all that play differently, and add a new layer to the game. And in this game, you're also allowed to pick the gender of your character, and that impacts how other characters react to you. If you're a fan of South Park The Stick of Truth, or you're just a fan of South Park in general, or you just want a humorous RPG that's really well made, South Park The Fractured But Whole is going to be right up your alley.
Mosquito away! Super Craig is gay.
Tana!
Until next time. Do the fuck? Oh! Are you shitting me? Fast paced.
God damn it! I can't put a child in.
Number 8, Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. So we already mentioned Ys Origin on this list, but a brand new game was released earlier this year in Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. Ys 8 doesn't revolutionize the franchise in any way, it's a lot more of the same, but it does improve in a lot of areas. The story is better, the pacing of the battles are better, but it is a very traditional Ys experience. It just refines the mechanics that were already present in the game and makes the overall experience better. If you're a fan of Ys or you just want a quality JRPG, Ys 8 is a solid one, so check it out. Number 7, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen. Dragon's Dogma was one of the great RPGs released late in last generation's life. It was released about a year before the PS4 dropped, and it was a quality action RPG that saw a lot of comparisons to the Souls games, but it definitely has its own elements that make it stand out. The only real issue with Dragon's Dogma was that it was limited from a technical perspective on last generation consoles. There were some frame rate hiccups, but now with the game coming to the PlayStation 4, those issues have been remedied. The game looks and runs great. And this version includes the Dark Arisen expansion, which adds a lot more content. You get the base game as well as the Dark Arisen expansion, and this is another game that's going to keep you busy for quite a while.
I shall still release.
Number 6, Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5, 2.5 Remix, and HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. So there were a lot of Kingdom Hearts collections, so we decided to just bundle this all up into one listing. First, we had Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 and 2.5 Remix. That is a collection of the 2 collections that were released on the PlayStation 3, including Kingdom Hearts 2, Birth by Sleep, and Raid Chain of Memories, as well as some other cinematics. HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue includes Dream Drop Distance, as well as a new experience that sets the table for Kingdom Hearts 3. If you've never played Kingdom Hearts before, or you just want to revisit the franchise, these collections are the best way to do so, especially with the HD 1.5 and 2.5 Remix. That includes an enormous view of the world and lore of Kingdom Hearts, so that is the best way to get into the series. And then HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue is a great follow-up. Dream Drop Distance takes place after Kingdom Hearts 2, and then you have an additional experience on top of that as well, albeit a lighter one. While Kingdom Hearts 3's release still looks to be a ways out, we'll probably see it in 2018. For now, you can check out the various collections.
How will you fight without a weapon?
My friends are my power, and I'm theirs!
Number 5, Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age. Final Fantasy XII is often considered the black sheep of the Final Fantasy franchise. A lot of gamers just weren't really into it, and I personally can't see it. I thought Final Fantasy XII was an excellent game. While the main character does get a tad bit annoying, the overall story of the game is very good, and it is absolutely loaded with content. If you want to do everything in Final Fantasy XII, it is going to take you a very, very long time. And with the Zodiac Age remaster, you get everything you would expect. It's got better visuals, it does have the Japanese-only international Zodiac job system, it adds trophy support of course, and there's a remastered soundtrack with a few new tracks and improved technical performance. If you weren't a fan of Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age probably isn't going to change your mind, but if you've never played the game or you want to revisit the game, this remaster is excellent.
It's time to end this.
My regards!
Number 4, Nioh. Nioh was a game that was long in development hell. It was originally announced back in 2004 and it saw many reiterations, but in 2015 it was finally re-revealed as a PlayStation 4 exclusive and as an action RPG similar to that like Souls. But with its use of Japanese folklore and other elements, it also stands out as its own product. The combat is excellent, the difficulty, while it's very challenging, it's also fair, and aesthetically the game is absolutely gorgeous, and the fact that Nioh is one of the few console games that gives players the option to choose different graphical modes, that is very much welcomed and puts more power into the player's hand. The game's story isn't anything to write home about, but that isn't a big deal because all of the other elements of Nioh are so strong. If you want a quality action RPG, Nioh is a great one. Number 3, NIER Automata. NIER Automata is the follow-up to NIER, and it's a follow-up I don't think many gamers were expecting to see. NIER was a very good game, however commercially it didn't perform all too well, and it did have its issues. While its storytelling and music was very strong, it really lacked on the gameplay side, but with NIER Automata that issue has been greatly remedied. This time around the game was developed by Platinum Games, and you can expect that same high-octane, fast-paced action gameplay. The story was engrossing, and it has unique delivery and direction. You do have to play through the game a couple times with different characters to get everything out of it, but it's a worthwhile experience to go through the game from different perspectives. So the gameplay is a lot better, and the excellent narrative, great music, and great characters are all retained. And don't worry if you didn't play the first NIER game, you can go right into NIER Automata and have a great time. Definitely give NIER Automata a look. Number 2, Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn was the latest game from Guerrilla Games, and it's an open-world post-apocalyptic action RPG, very different from Guerrilla's other famous work, Killzone. Horizon Zero Dawn was seen to be the next big PlayStation franchise, and Guerrilla has set a fantastic foundation for what could be one of Sony's biggest IPs. While Horizon wasn't absolutely perfect, it was very, very good. It had a great story with a solid main character, very unique gameplay, and of course, technically, this is one of the best-looking console games you are ever going to see. It's got a pretty good amount of content and the world is pretty diverse. We've also got an expansion coming for the game called The Frozen Wilds, but even with the base game, it is awesome. And if you have a PlayStation 4, this is one of the must-own games.
From the Killzone games into Horizon and raise it to a new level.
Engage, evacuate, which leads to many more options of engaging in combat.
So if you're more a stealth player, there's a lot of options for that. If you're more an action player, there's also a lot of options. And then you can mix the two as well if you like.
Aloy's weaponry, in principle, it's based on bows and spears, and it's kind of Bronze Age
technology. Robot parts that create flames.
She can also use weaponry that she shoots off of the machines. And obviously she's got her wide variety of bows. And these bows have...
And finally, number 1, Persona 5. Persona over the last decade has been one of those franchises that's been quietly gaining in popularity. And what's funny is before Persona 5, the last mainline Persona game, Persona 4, released back in 2008, so it was a long drought between games. But during that in-between phase, the niche popularity of Persona was growing. And that really exploded with Persona 5. And why is that? It's because that Persona 5 could be considered one of, if not the best JRPG of all time. That is not hyperbole. It is that good of a game. We already know how good Persona 4 was, and Persona 5 is a far better game. The amazing art direction, great character development, great storytelling. The design is absolutely excellent. If you have to make one complaint, maybe it's not up to par on a technical sense because this was a game that was developed for the PS3 and the PS4, but even then, they make up for that in spades with the amazing art direction. And Persona 5 is another game with a ton of content. We're talking you can spend north of 150 hours in this game and it never gets repetitive because the content is varied. There's your great dungeon crawling RPG, but there's also a high school simulation, which kind of sounds weird to the naked eye, but I'm telling you, it adds that extra layer to the game that really makes it engaging and never makes it repetitive. If you're a fan of the Persona franchise, at this point, you've probably already checked out Persona 5, but if the series kind of looked a little too zany for you, a little too much Japanese, still, I would highly recommend to check out Persona 5. Even if you've never played a JRPG in your life, I would still recommend to check out Persona 5. It's that good.
What's the answer?
Come to me!
What the hell? I'll come get some!
We can do this if we all work together! I'd rather that than be bad at every subject.
So that wraps up the top 15 amazing PS4 RPGs of 2017 that you must own. What have been your favorite RPGs of 2017 on the PS4? Let us know in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching and goodbye.